Okay guys, 1 second while I get the camera squared away. Alright, 1 second. Let me get completely set up here. Maybe. Oh, that works. Alright. Well, hi guys. First of all, let me know if the lighting is good on this. I'm not really... Again, I am visually impaired, so I can't really tell you 100% how good the lighting looks to people. Anyway, yeah, if there are any problems with that, let me know. So yeah, good evening for those on the Eastern time zone here in the US, and good whatever day it is where you're watching from. My name is Misty Dawn, for those of you who have not followed me before here. I am indeed visually impaired. I do have some vision, but I am considered very much legally blind. My vision is very, very limited. And I am here to take your questions about blindness and vision impairment. Let me make sure I can see the comments really quickly. Maybe. Alright. Alright. Excuse me. Okay, so if you have any questions about blindness, vision impairment, anything relating to it, go ahead and throw those in the comments section of this particular Periscope. And I will do my best to answer them. For those who are, again, new to this particular scope series, if you will, or these particular scope sessions, I also archive these on my YouTube channel, which is at the same username that I am here, at Aurora Nebulosa. You can see it here, and you can just go and copy it. How do I read the comments? Yep, I knew that was gonna come up. Alright, so you may have gotten a clue just from what happened as to how I read the comments, if you were really listening closely, but let me explain it. Excuse me. So basically, as I say, I do have some level of vision, but it is very limited, so I can see when a comment comes in on the lower left, so I can see like a little square come up, right? Although, even though I can see the square come up, I can't see exactly what's in the square. I can't read the text because it's too small for me. And so when I see a square come up, I put my finger in the lower left of the screen, and I use special speech software on my phone that reads the text in that square aloud. So if a comment comes in, I can have my speech software read the comment aloud. Now, on Periscope, as I think I've said before in previous broadcasts, Periscope does not automatically read comments aloud when they come in, using the software, so I have to watch for them in the lower left. And I may sometimes miss your comments or questions, so if I do, just put them out there again. I do have a very limited visual field, and so when I'm looking at the center of the screen, I may not always see a comment come in, because, I'm looking at the center of the screen, all I'm seeing is the center of the screen. My vision is very centralized and very, very narrow. So yeah, if you have a question and I don't answer it, just throw it out there again, and I'll probably notice it when you submit it the second time. If I don't notice it at all, I will replay this later, and I will get to your question next week. I do this every week, starting at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. I take questions about blindness and vision impairment from anyone who'd like to ask them, and the subjects are not, there are no limits. Ask me anything about blindness, vision impairment. Usually I'm here again for about half an hour on... Do I live on my own? Well, now, most blind people my age do by this point. Well, put it this way, most of them who are employed. I'm presently on the job market, and so I just recently got out of grad school, and presently living with the parents, but I plan to live on my own once I can get employed. And most blind people do live on their own once they're employed. Now, blindness and employment is a whole other issue. That can get a little complicated. And I did address that, I think, a couple of scopes ago. Again, check my YouTube channel at the same username that I am here. So yeah, but yeah, once I get employed, I will live on my own, and many, many blind people do live on their own. If not most of them, once they're employed particularly. And even those who get, disability or SSI will generally at some point get out on their own these days, anyway. So, any other questions from folks? Also, while you're thinking of questions, if you have any ideas as to how I can improve this Periscope, let me know. How can I make these sessions better or more interesting or even more entertaining? What would you guys like to see me do or hear me say or whatever? I'll try my best to make these entertaining. We need to get the numbers up, folks. We need to get folks in here interested and I will try to do what I can to keep people interested. What other aids do I have around the house? I assume you're talking about things that help me get around as a blind person, like technology and things like that. Um, Around the house, in terms of just daily living, I use a combination of things. I have a magnifier, in fact, a magnifier app right here on my phone. It's a video magnifier. You can magnify about 20 times or more, I think. And you can also change the color and contrast. So, like, I read white text on a black background better than I can read black text on a white background because of my particular eye condition. It's just easier for me to see. So you can change text to where you can read it more easily and magnify the text. Now, what other aids? Well, I have also another app. There are actually a lot of apps out there for blind people on the iPhone these days. And I also have an app called Digitize, Digiteyes. Clever, right? And it's a barcode scanner, essentially. And so if I again, I have some vision, so if I look up a barcode on an item, say I can't read the label on the item, which usually I can't because it's either too small, really poor contrast, the labeling is, or it's a really fancy print that I can't read because of my limited vision. And so if I can't read a label, what I do is I find the barcode on, say, box of cereal or milk or whatever, even CDs and things, locate the barcode, and I bring up that Digitize app, and I scan the barcode. And once I scan the barcode, it will bring up a screen on my phone that will tell me what that item is. So it'll tell me, like, I don't know, Cocoa Krispies cereal, right? Yes, I still like kids' cereals, whatever. Don't judge. And again, the same speech software that I use to read these comments, I can use to read the screen and read aloud what that item is. So, what else? What other apps on my phone do I use? I also have a color identifier. So while I do have some vision, I can see color. Sometimes the way I see color is kind of distorted. So I might see a blue as purple, or a pink as a red, or something black as a dark blue as black, or something like that. And so I can actually put my phone over an object and take a picture of it, essentially, and scan that object, and it'll tell me what color it is. Now, that is not perfect. There are still some issues with the color identification based on the lighting that you're in, or whatever other environmental factors that can interfere. But it's decent. There's also another app called what is it? TapTapSee. I'll get to that here in a minute. Once I get to go through explaining the apps. Hold that thought. My mind's really one track now. Terrible at multitasking. Not a blind thing, just a me thing. Anyway. I just got the same comment over again for some reason. Apologies. So that TapTapSee, you basically can take a picture, and a live person on the other end of the phone, quote unquote, will identify what that object is in your camera lens. So if I take a picture of maybe the window, and I take a picture outside, and I can ask, say it's winter and I'm not sure what it looks like out there, I can say, is there snow on the ground? Wait a couple of minutes or so, and someone will get back to me and say, no, there isn't snow on the ground, or yes, there is snow on the ground. So if you look up TapTapSee, I think there's an easy way you can become a volunteer there and help other blind people identify objects. Just Google, all one word, just Google TapTapSee, and you should be able to get to that. There's another similar app. Again, I'm having trouble remembering the names off the top of my head. I use them so often, but I can't remember the names of them. There's another one, a similar thing, where you can take a picture and you can have people identify apps that I think are objects that I think it's free. This first one is paid. Oh goodness, that's going to bother me. Any other blind people on this that remember what that app's called? Oh, Be My Eyes. Again, I think it's all one word, Be My Eyes. And so look that up if you want to volunteer. It's easy to do. Actually, you can just download that app, and it'll ask if you're blind or sighted. If you're sighted, and you can volunteer to help blind people. And what happens is you'll get a notification when a blind person is asking a question. You follow the instructions to connect with that person, and then you can help them with whatever they need help on in terms of identifying something. Okay, cell phone, whether it has revolutionized my life, I'd say it's been a huge help because of the fact that it is so mobile. I mean, blind people have used technology for practically as long as technology has existed. To help them out to being more independent. But with the mobile apps, it's just a lot easier to have everything right there on your phone with you, right, when you need it. Because we all of us pretty well take our phones anywhere we go, right? But before the apps started becoming a thing, there were a lot of standalone devices. Like right now, there's also an app that can identify paper currency and tell blind people what that currency is, what denomination. Whereas before you had to have a standalone separate device to identify currency. You had to have a separate device for video magnification. You may have had to have a separate device to scan barcodes. And, that's just a bunch of hardware, right? And a bunch of chargers and a bunch of plugging in and taking out. But with apps, yeah, I mean, it's that, in a sense, that way it's kind of revolutionized the lives of blind people. Certainly the iPhone itself used to be inaccessible to blind people because, it was a touchscreen, right? And how is a blind person supposed to see to operate a touchscreen? Well, with the speech software that I mentioned at the beginning of this broadcast, blind people can now use a touchscreen because whenever a blind person puts their finger over, say, an app, an icon, that the speech on the phone will read out loud what's under your finger. And so it's made the iPhone pretty well very, very accessible. Now, certain app developers have to design their apps with accessibility in mind because the speech software on the iPhone can only read certain types of code, basically. And so if some apps can be inaccessible because the software developer hasn't designed with the blind in mind, as it were, but most mainstream apps, major apps, are becoming more and more accessible. And so that's pretty like blind people can use the standard Twitter app because what's called VoiceOver, which is the speech software I use on the iPhone, VoiceOver can read what's in the Twitter app for us aloud. And I think actually I demonstrate VoiceOver and how it works on the iPhone on my YouTube channel, along with these Periscope sessions. I also have another, I call it, I guess, a vodcast, sort of a video podcast on that same YouTube channel called Through My Eyes. And it's a little more formal than this one. I do a lot more demonstrating and a lot less talking, right? So if you go to the Through My Eyes playlist on my YouTube channel, there is a video on there called How Does a Blind Person Use an iPhone? Or something like that. And I demonstrate how my speech software works. And, this speech software is actually built right into the iPhone. And so all you have to do is go under accessibility settings and turn it on. Now, if you want to experiment with it yourself, if you're sighted, if you turn on VoiceOver, it's going to change the way you interact with your iPhone. The gestures that you use, like the taps and the swipes and this, they're all going to change because they have to be different for people using voice on an iPhone because we can't just put our finger over something and have it read it normally, because normally without VoiceOver on, you put your finger over something, it brings up the app, right? With VoiceOver, it sets it up so if you put your finger over something, it just reads what's under your finger. And in order to activate what's under your finger, you have to double tap it and not just single tap it. So your gestures like that are going to change. I'm going to warn you right now. But feel free to experiment with it. Just be careful, what you get into, because you might have difficulty figuring out how to get out of it. With Siri, you can just say turn VoiceOver on or turn VoiceOver off. So that's an easy way to get out of it. If you get stuck, just hit Siri and go same way you normally would, and go, turn VoiceOver off. But yeah, I'd encourage you guys to experiment with it. Even sighted people, to get an idea of how blind people use their iPhones. And most blind people I know nowadays have an iPhone because it's accessible right out of the box. You bring home an iPhone, all you have to do is hit Siri, push the home key in and say, Siri, turn on VoiceOver, and your phone's accessible. So it's pretty awesome. I know I went on way long with that one, but I figured I'd try to give you a good detailed rundown of how the iPhone has helped blind people. Any other questions? Any other questions out there relating to what I just said, or any other situations with blindness? Any other questions about blindness generally, or vision impairment? Any other questions out there? Any suggestions as to how I might improve these periscopes? Again, I want to get the numbers up. I want to get people interested in this. And again, apologies if I missed anyone. I will look at this later, and I'll make sure I haven't missed folks, and if I have, I'll get to your questions next week. Thanks a lot. Yeah, you're quite welcome. I'm happy to do this. This is definitely, I would say, kind of a mission for me. There's a lot of misunderstanding. There are a lot of misconceptions about blind people. Thank you. A lot of misconceptions about blind people, and I think coming from a blind person herself, I think it really helps people to understand not only what our lives are like. And Jill 6, keep well. You too. But also, it helps people to realize that we're not scary unknowns. A lot of people are really not sure how to interact with us in real life, and, just come up and talk to us. We're not going to bite, right? So, I think it helps for folks to interact with a blind person on a platform like this. It helps us in a lot of ways. But, this isn't just about me, folks. This is not about some shameless self-promotion, right? This is a huge thing. We need to educate the public about blindness issues, and the public needs to know more about us and more about blindness so that they are more knowledgeable and less afraid of it, right? Blind people can live very fulfilling lives. If you go blind later in life, it's not the end of the world. If you have a blind child, it's not the end of the world for your blind child. There's so much out there, so many resources out there for blind people these days, especially, that you are living in a great time to be blind, okay? Quite frankly. As I've just demonstrated and just mentioned, with the technology and all that. So, again, any other questions relating to blindness or vision impairment? Again, if you like this, heart it up, share it, put it up on Twitter, put it up on your Facebook, talk to your friends about it. Let's get more numbers in here. Let's get more people interested. Any other questions about blindness right now? I'll wait a couple seconds. And again, I'll be posting this up on YouTube once I'm finished with it, so if you miss it now or if you miss it after the 24-hour deadline, it'll be up on YouTube. My weather radio is going off. Lovely. Just 1 second, please. I want to make sure about this weather warning. And there's no way to put a hold on this thing, so just hold on. We've got a watch here for our county. Okay, it's a severe thunderstorm watch. Oh, there's a hail threat for this storm. Lovely. Yikes. Sorry, I'm having to pay attention to this. Okay. Again, any other questions about blindness? Not sure what my view count looks like right now. Like I said, I've gotten quite a few people, usually 40 to 50 people each week, but my retention rate needs a little work. So again, if you have any suggestions as to how I can make this better and how I can retain followers for these, that'd be great. All right, well, again, if there are any questions, feel free to shoot them at me, but I'm going to go ahead and talk briefly. I kind of alluded to this earlier. While I'm waiting for questions, I will talk briefly about the various resources that are out there for blind and visually impaired people. Whether the blind person is very young, a young child, to senior citizens. There are two major organizations that exist for blind people and that are made up of blind people. You think of organizations of the deaf, you think of organizations of minority groups like the NAACP, right? There are two major organizations out there that consist of blind people and that work for blind people. The first, and I think the largest, is the National Federation of the Blind, or NFB. It is the oldest. I think it started existing back in either the early 1900s or late 1800s. I'm not 100% sure. I read history a while back, but I can't remember all the dates off the top of my head. But anyway, if you Google that, that is probably your best place to start, because you're talking to other blind people who know blindness best, okay? Because, they've lived it, they've experienced it. So check that out if you want to know anything about blindness, if you have concerns, if you know someone who's blind. That's probably the best place to start with any kind of questions you may have about sort of other resources that are out there for blind people. The second organization of blind people is the American Council of the Blind. Now, it did split off from the National Federation of the Blind, I think in the 50s or 60s, because of some differences of philosophy and things like that, that can be. But it's also a good resource. The National Federation tends to be a lot more aggressive, perhaps, than the American Council of the Blind. Depends on how you want to approach blindness. If you are a little more aggressive about it, or if you are a little more accommodating to folks, the ACB is probably the way to go. The American Council of the Blind, again, Google either of those. Again, those are probably your two best places to start. The American Foundation for the Blind is an organization working for us, but it consists of both blind and sighted people, and I think it actually may be majority sighted, or at least 50-50. American Printing House for the Blind offers books and other materials in alternative formats such as Braille and large print. Excuse me, goodness. Excuse me. And I'm trying to think some other good places to start. There are plenty of other websites. Vision Aware, VISIONAWARE, is a good website for people who are blind and low vision, and for those who care about them, to get ideas about how to get around as a blind person, the technology that's out there, the how you can get text in alternative formats, and other issues relating to blindness. Now, if you are a blind person going to university, or if you know a blind person going to university, then you might want to look up your local vocational rehabilitation services. They assist people with disabilities, including blindness, in getting accommodations that they may need for their college career, again, such as magnifiers and Braille devices and these kinds of things. So vocational rehabilitation is good for that. You can Google that if you're interested there. Any other blind folks out there maybe want to throw out some other ideas that I'm missing? If you guys are listening to this or watching this. There are, for blind students from kindergarten until 12th grade, schools for the blind, I think practically in every state, if not in every state. If you believe your son or daughter has some issues with various issues relating to blindness, or if you are a student who has issues in the public school system, I would check those out. They offer classes specifically adapted for blind people, and they also offer blindness-specific classes like Braille courses, orientation and mobility courses, which basically that means it helps blind people to get around on their own with a cane or a guide dog. And they offer other specialty courses about, for instance, daily living, how to cook on your own, how to clean on your own as a blind person, as a blind person or a person with low vision. So check out, if you're in a state, put in the state's name and then School for the Blind. So like Indiana School for the Blind, Ohio School for the Blind, and you'll probably get up what you need there. If you are going to university, look up your disability student services or the equivalent, and they'll be able to help you with any accommodations if you're blind, or if you know someone who's blind, check that out. What other sources are probably good places, sort of gateway type sources? Well, the American Council for the Blind, ACB Radio, I just thought of this, actually has a sub-organization called ACB Radio, which is actually a radio station with various talk shows dealing with blindness issues such as cooking and fashion and all this technology and all of this. And just Google ACB Radio and you'll be able to listen to that online. Both the NFB and the ACB, these two major organizations of blind people, offer various sub-organizations, like I said, like ACB Radio. They also offer organizations of blind students, whether you're in college or high school, you can join one of those. They offer organizations of blind teachers, I think even blind lawyers. And so there are a lot of specialty sub-organizations within these major umbrella organizations that you can get into depending on your career, your interests. There are also local affiliates for both of these organizations. So there's an Indiana chapter of the ACB and an Indiana chapter of the NFB, right? So you can get involved in your local chapter if you're interested in that. You can hold various offices within these organizations. So I think that's a pretty good start as to any other resources. Does anyone have any questions about other resources to help blind folks out, whether it be yourself or someone else, or just, if you're curious? Any other questions about that, just go and throw those my way. Or any other questions about blindness generally, and vision impairment. Again, I'm always open for just the general questions as well. Again, apologies if I miss anyone. I will try to get to you next week. If I do, I will play this later and make sure I haven't missed anyone. And if there are any questions. And also, if you see this on YouTube later, put some questions on YouTube. Throw some questions out there on YouTube. I always look at the comments, and I'll get to those, at the next possible opportunity. So, I think I'm going to say final call for any other questions on blindness and vision impairment that I can answer. Even if I don't think I can answer them, I'll do my best to do so, or direct you to a source that might be able to answer them. Any other questions? All right, I think I'm going to go ahead and sign off here then. I'm not sure what my time looks like, but I try to keep this to about a half an hour. I know people have busy lives. So yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and sign off. And again, if you have any questions later on, if you replay this, go ahead and put them on my YouTube channel. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I am at the same username as I am on YouTube and on here. So even if you'd like to tweet me questions, tweet me there, follow me there. Follow me here, please, so you can get alerts when I do one of these periscopes. I do these, but I also do some lighter fare in terms of periscopes. I actually, I don't know if you've watched it already, but I did a periscope of our little neighbor dog coming up and visiting me earlier, so it's kind of a cute one. But I do lighter stuff too, along with these, so follow me there and to get alerts on all of my periscopes, including these. Heart, especially these. You heart my other periscopes too, but certainly heart these periscope sessions, and share them with the other periscope followers, and put this on Facebook, put it on your blog, pass it on to Twitter. Again, we need to get the numbers up. We need to keep the numbers up. Again, I usually have about between 40 and 50 people, and I'd like to get numbers even higher. I mean, that's pretty good. Don't get me wrong, but we can always use more people. This is important, folks. This is I think not to be brag or anything, but this is good work. It needs to be done. Yeah, I think I was going to say something else, but I completely spaced it. So let me see if I can think of it. If I don't think of it, I'm going to probably sign off of here pretty soon. And thanks, folks, again for watching. And check me out. I try to do this. Hopefully, if I keep the numbers up, I will continue to do this every week at this time. Thursdays, 5:30 p.m. Thursdays, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Same bat time, same bat channel, as it were, every week. Again, encourage your friends, heart this, share it, all that good stuff. Let's get it really popular, and let's get it out here. Let's get it featured. I doubt that's going to happen anytime soon, but who knows? If we get a lot of likes and a lot of people, that may just happen. So, all right. Well, thanks for watching this. Appreciate you two guys taking the time, and I hope to see you again next week at this time. Bye, guys, and have a lovely rest of your day. Stop broadcast.